All right, we're here with Jack LaMorte. I'm Daniel Brinkman, and we are Jack and Dan talking congressional districts. We're starting today with the Virginia 7th congressional district, which is a race between self-proclaimed moderate Abigail Spanberger and Republican candidate Yesli Vega. Jack, you want to tell us a little bit about the district?
Yeah, so it's a fairly evenly divided district. It was previously represented by Eric Cantor and then David Brat, who Spanberger beat in 2018. It's in central Virginia and it covers the Richmond suburbs.
Yeah, and Abigail Spanberger is former. She's got an interesting story to her. Former CIA case officer. She outpulled Trump by a point in 2020, 51% to 50%. She's pretty studiously measured and not sound bitey in her appearances. She makes a point of declaring herself pro Second Amendment, even though she's for background checks. She voted against Pelosi for Speaker, and her win against David Brat ended a 36-year-old GOP hold on the district. It was actually Brat who upset Cantor in the primary, and I think it was maybe 2016 or 2014. Cantor was Boehner's pick to succeed him as Speaker, and that primary victory kind of threw that apple cart over the cliff. And that's how we wound up with Paul Ryan as Speaker for a little bit there. She doesn't trot out your standard Dem talking points like a Katie Porter would have done, but she does vote fairly Democrat. She made a point after Dem losses in 2020 going after leadership for their playing footsie with defund the police during a meeting with Dem lawmakers. Told them, don't say socialism, don't say defund the police. That's not what we mean. She also said beating the drum about how terrible Donald Trump is just beating the drum. It's actually not doing anything productive. To her credit, she held town halls in every single county in the district upon winning her seat, and is probably the only Dem who could potentially win this district. Just how she studiously avoids controversial or Dem sounding talking points. She's voted with Biden 100% of the time and Trump only 6.9% of the time when Trump was president. She voted against the federal budget in 2019, citing the national debt. Now that Dems are in charge, doesn't seem to be a problem. Obama actually pulled the same card when he was in the Senate, pretending to care about the debt. But then when they're in charge, it's a different story.
Yes, we've seen that time and time again. But I mean, she is still definitely an interesting Democratic candidate. I mean, you do not see this nearly enough from the Democrats who just
No,
aren't. Yeah, go ahead.
absolutely right. No, I mean she's very moderate in tone. I mean, not that tone really means all that much, but I mean she does the tone better than any that I've seen in the ones that we've looked at so far. Don't you think?
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Um, I'd say we're in a pretty good shape with who we selected as our nominee, though. I think Yesli Vega seems to be a pretty strong uh, competitor to her, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. So Yesli Vega is a former police officer who joins the police after her brother was killed by MS-13. She is Hispanic, and she does have some political experience as well. She was previously elected to the Prince William County Board of Supervisors. And those three things right there already makes her a very formidable candidate. Um, do you want to talk about the importance of those three things?
Yeah. I mean, first, the fact that she's Hispanic, that's a demographic that we've talked about before. That if the GOP does even slightly better with Hispanic voters, it totally changes the game and puts the Democrats on their heels with what is a crucial part of their coalition. Um, Being previously elected gives her name rec.
Right.
which is hugely important. And it covers, she said before that there's a 36% overlap between the congressional district and, or she covers 36% of the new congressional district in her Prince William County board of supervisors elected position. So 36% of that district, at least some of those people should know who she is or be familiar with her name. It also being elected gives her an advantage in knowing what running for office is all about and not being completely green behind the ears. A lot of folks tend to think that because Donald Trump did it, never having run before, that it's good for people with no political experience to run for office. I mean, hey, if you're thinking of running for office and that's going to stop you, like, well, start with something small, but like in anything, experience matters. And there are a lot of pits and valleys that if you haven't done it before are going to be a problem for you. The third thing, having been a former police officer, it gives her a compelling story, and a major issue right now is crime, and she can speak to that coherently. She's been on the front lines of it. She knows what lawlessness and Dem policies and lib policies, what they reap. So you're absolutely right. Those three things are a very strong element of what she could be as a candidate.
Yeah, and that's a great point you bring up about elected office before. I mean, we certainly don't want to discourage people from running for office. Dan has ran for office, and I plan to, but I mean, so we're not discouraging it at all. But it definitely helps a significant amount when you have that name recognition, and a lot of that comes from being previously elected, especially to a county board position, because then a lot of
Yeah,
people know who you are.
and that's where you start. Like ideally, you start at that local level. I mean, some of these guys just running for Congress out the gate, never having either worked in a campaign or done anything on this side of it, and then just waking up on a Thursday saying, "Oh, I think I'm going to be a congressman." I mean,
Right.
that's really putting your party at a disadvantage. But I mean, obviously, like you said, if you want to run, you should run, but try to start small, because that's where you're going to really get your feet wet and learn the ropes.
Yeah, and then we have some other information about Yesli Vega as well. She's very pro-life. She was attacked by Axios for recording of her doubting the veracity of pregnancies resulting from rape. Do you want to talk about that story a little bit?
Um, it's just not a great line that she's finding herself in. But I mean, if she takes the line of attack, I mean, because Democrats are very aggressive on the issue of abortion, and we need to give that right back to them, because like Abigail Spanberger and like all of these Dems that we go through, they're all 100% pro abortion, with the exception of one guy that we're going to go over today. So it would be very easy for an adept Republican campaign to simply give it right back to them and say, well, you're for abortion up until birth, which almost all of them are. And in the voters' minds, all you really need to do on this issue is muddy the waters. I mean, we're right on the merits of it. We know that. But for voters that think that we're the bad guy, you don't need to win the argument when they're slinging mud. All you just need to show is, no, they're crazy. So then you don't trust what they're saying to you. It's what lawyers would call impeaching the witness. So you need to go after them quick with it, because right now all these Republican candidates are getting attacked on this issue. And if you're not slinging it right back to them and slinging it quickly, voters' perceptions get kind of stuck in a cement, as it were, and you wind up getting in trouble.
Yeah, and so would you say that when they did attack her, she was able to handle it in the ways that you just outlined? She was able to handle it well.
It sounds like it. Yeah. She sounds like a really good candidate. Yeah. I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I thought so for sure. And it shows that she's been a good candidate because when she won an election previously, it was in the Democratic district by 13 points in a wave election year for Democrats. And it really speaks to her quality as a hardworking candidate.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, you can't fake those numbers. I mean, numbers speak louder than anything. I mean, you see it in how some of these candidates underperformed Biden or overperformed Biden. I mean, that's a good avenue into how what their quality is as a candidate. If any of the people listening are looking to run for office and are trying to gauge the strength of an opponent, looking at how that potential opponent does against other candidates that they're running on the ticket with in the same field, whether they're underperforming or performing, is a really good gauge to see how they're doing. And the fact that she won a Dem district by 13 points in a wave election year for Democrats really speaks well of her as somebody that works hard.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely going to be a great race. 270 to win does say, let me pull up that number there. It does say that it's not the right one. It does say Spanberger does have a 4% lead, 5% lead. They say it's 4.9 based on RMG research. But I mean, it's certainly a close race, and Spanberger's at that 46%, so not at the 50% that you were talking about in the last video, Dan.
Yeah, and like we said,
yeah,
if as long as the Democrat is under 50%, I mean it's not like that Ace Ventura line, and there's a chance. It's much more than that because undecided voters often all break, or not all, but mostly, or to a vast majority, break one way or another depending on what the election climate is. So, I mean, as long as they have her down sufficiently, like a couple points below 50, like Yesli can certainly pull this off.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely curious to see how that one works. Should we talk about their funding real fast, though?
Yeah, absolutely. How are they doing?
Yeah, so Spanberger has raised 5.5 million, just about. She spent 1.2, and her cash on hand is $4.9 million dollars. Vega has raised $741,000, almost 742. She spent 490, and cash on hand is at 251,000.
Well, hopefully she gets that number up. I mean, she's
Yeah.
going to need to spend a lot of it though. So I wouldn't imagine the cash on hand to be terribly high for her. However, she gets to it, just because she's going to have to up her name rec and get her name out there. But she's going to need every cent of that in this race against a good candidate like Spanberger is. Yeah, for sure. And I actually want to check real fast. I want to see when
those numbers are from. Yeah, so that's June 30th. So that was 2.5 months ago, right? There's my math. Is my math wrong? It's September now, June. Yeah, almost 3 months ago.
Yeah, so they should be having another reporting here coming soon. So hopefully Vega's got some serious coin that she's had dropped on her campaign since then.
Yeah. So do you have any final thoughts on this race, Dan?
I think it's one we could definitely pick up. I think Spanberger is among the strongest Dem candidates that we're probably going to cover today, but Vega is a very strong candidate also. And Spanberger, this is a new part of this district's new for Spanberger. So some of the advantages of incumbency are going to be a little bit lessened. So I think Vega could pull it off. if she proves to be as effective a campaigner as we saw in 2018 when she did well in a wave year.
Yeah, I completely agree. That being said, should we move on to our next district?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for listening. And we look forward to catching you on the next video.